Rossi is one of the most unique characters we've seen so far, and after her full reveal in version 1.1, it's pretty clear that she's going to be quite impactful, especially for physical teams. She uses Crush and Breach together amazingly, and she's also one of the few characters who can actually be used not just with one element, but several. With this, in today's video, we're going to break down everything you need to know about Rossi, and we'll go over how her kit works, her best builds, how to play her, team synergies, and ultimately answer the question of whether she's worth pulling for. But if you enjoyed this sort of breakdown, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. With this out of the way though, let's get straight into it. Rossi is a physical carry with her gameplay revolving around generating and converting stacks, though she can also prioritize dealing damage herself, especially through her ultimate. That said, her goal as a utility operator is to convert Arts Infliction into vulnerability stacks, which has massive value for physical teams especially, and allows for completely new teams to be tested as well. Additionally, unlike most characters, Rossi is not just an enabler, she also deals high amounts of damage herself, acting as both a dual utility and DPS threat. Playwise though, Rossi will look to stay on field to maintain her stacks, deal damage, and buff the team, but despite this, it is also worth mentioning that her animations are long. To understand why Rossi can be such a powerful asset to a team though, let's break down each part of her kit. Rossi's basic attacks are pretty standard and feature long animations while also having multi-hit sequences. Now while these aren't her primary source of damage, they're important for maintaining uptime and building stacks, though in general, basic attacks are simply used as filler when you don't have SP or have anything else to do with your abilities. Her battle skill is one of the most important parts of her kit, and with it, on the first hit, she applies a vulnerability stack. If the enemy, however, already has one, she follows this up instead with a second hit that deals combustion damage and launches the target. This also applies a long duration debuff that increases both physical and combustion damage taken, along with a bleed effect, and all of this of course is extremely valuable if you match any of these damage types. Rossi's combo skill is what makes her kit truly unique though. When an enemy has both a vulnerability stack and an arts infliction stack, Rossi can convert the art stack into additional vulnerability stacks, and on top of this, her combo skill activation will grant a crit rate and crit damage buff that can be maintained near permanently, which is pretty important to note as this will affect her build and what her gameplay goals are. Rossi's ultimate is her main damage source though, and it delivers a series of rapid hits followed by a massive finisher, all dealing combustion damage. What makes this especially strong though is how it interacts with her passives. Each crit during the ultimate triggers additional damage, and yes, this may seem familiar to those who have recently pulled for Yvonne, played Levitain, or seen how powerful ultimates can be in general for Endfield. Rossi's passive, as you'd imagine, adds tons of stat value and personal damage when upgrading them. This is what gives her the debuff that increases both physical and combustion damage that she can apply, while also adding a bleed effect to it as well. The other passive is what triggers additional damage and heals whenever she lands crits on debuffed enemies, with even higher damage added if combustion is active. This of course also means that using her ultimate or pairing her with fire buffing teammates will see greater value if looking to run Rossi as more of a main DPS. Altogether though, alongside her kit, Rossi can be both a damage dealer herself or benefit others too, especially from what we've seen in her ability matrix, which is always nice as added flexibility. Skill priority wise, you'll want to upgrade her ultimate, combo skill, and battle skills first, and after this you can focus on her basics, but in general, as she does deal a respectable amount of DPS, investing in these skills to deal more damage is actually a pretty good idea. Now let's move to Rossi's build. With her kit synergizing with crit, one of her best gear sets to consider is MI security. As a disclaimer, and as usual though, there are various ways to build and gear your operators, and Rossi is no different. That said, considering she can't use buff-based sets like Zero Night or Frontiers, and from what we've seen with Tong Tong in the past, sometimes dealing more damage is the best thing you can offer to a team. As a result, though you could replace a few of the pieces of the MI security set listed here, each choice already has agility and intellect perfectly matching what Rossi would need. And otherwise, you could replace certain pieces for attribute-based options like with Lynx Lab, or replace other options for ultimate gain / more stat like with the Redeemer Seal or Redeemer Gloves. Regarding weapon options, Rossi's best build is her signature Lupine Scarlet, which should be no surprise to anyone. The weapon has agility, crit rate, and attack, all of which Rossi can use very well, and since Rossi hits many times, she can also stack its passive effect too. Performance-wise though, the Battle Pass weapon, Glorious Memory, is a strong alternative, performing at around 16 to 21% of the signature at base, though obtaining multiple copies of this and reaching max refinement will close this gap to a 10 to 12% performance difference instead. Beyond this, using other placeholder weapons like Sundering Steel, Rapid Ascent, or 12 Questions will work in the meantime, but overall it's clear that Rossi has a preference for crit rate throughout her kit, resulting in the performance gap and preferences that you're seeing. Rossi's gameplay loop revolves around setting up stacks, converting them, and then detonating them just before or during a buffed ultimate window. To start though, you apply vulnerability, then apply an art's infliction through a teammate. This enables her combo, allowing her to convert stacks and gain her crit buffs, but from this point, you can then detonate stacks with your main physical DPS and then finish with her ultimate once all buffs are active. Now let's move to Rossi's partners and teams, starting with ideal synergies. Rossi works best with 3 types of teammates: physical DPS units that can detonate or consume vulnerability stacks, and amplifiers that can boost both physical and elemental damage. Finally, she also does well with characters like Gilberta, who are universally useful due to their ability to buff, gather enemies together, and crowd control all in one. When it comes to Rossi's exact teams though, there are 2 main categories that you'll focus on: pure physical setups that focus on maximizing stack generation and detonation, and more versatile setups that allow Rossi to deal damage or avoid simply being an extra enabler in a physical team. For pure physical teams, your main goal is set around Rossi converting arts inflictions into vulnerability stacks, while a physical DPS detonates them for high damage. This includes teams like Rossi with Akikure and Administrator, paired with a flex unit such as Pog or Ember. These teams are very consistent and relatively easy to play. You generate stacks, convert them with Rossi, and then detonate them. Now, while this team can be very strong, it is worth mentioning that viable or powerful teams are also still at the mercy of whatever endgame content is designed or thrown at players upon a version update. And so, for instance, though you could argue a character like Snowshine should be weaker than other options, since most of her value is reliant on countering an aggressive enemy or survivability, there are still certain fights where she's strong, especially with the lack of sustain or healing available from consumables. Other variants like Rossi with Akikure, Pog, and Administrator are also very powerful, with an increased focus on reaching max breach and crush stacks within a single rotation. These setups also have some of the highest damage ceilings available, but they do require proper management of these breach and crush stacks so that you can detonate both for high damage through your main DPS operators. Other choices also allow for Rossi to deal more damage herself, and this could look like a team including Rossi paired with Gilberta, Ardelia, and Administrator. As usual though, you could also make substitutions and replace someone like Ardelia with Wolfguard, who then allows for more combo skilling, heat infliction, and damage. On that note though, Wolfguard does provide combustion, which is extremely important for Rossi, but this would be at the cost of losing Ardelia's healing and team buffs instead. Even more alternatives to this exist though, including Rossi with Gilberta, Perlica, and Administrator, and this setup does allow for combo skills which could then be used to buff the team and its damage, but compared to some of the other teams, including the physical lineups, you may end up losing damage and the healing from Ardelia once again. Overall, pure physical teams are your best option if you want the highest damage performance across different game modes and levels of play, but this may change of course once we see new content or when they release new endgame. Now let's move to Rossi's pros and cons. For pros, she's versatile and can work as either a DPS or an enabler for her teams. She has a high damage ultimate, and she's one of the only operators who can stack breach and crush simultaneously. In addition to this, she can also convert arts inflictions to vulnerability and has decent access to free-to-play weapons as a sword user. For cons, she does require a decent amount of resource management and consideration. She can feel dependent on higher cost teammates to really shine, and she isn't really able to use supportive sets the way that other half DPS / utility operators can sometimes use them. But now let's address the most important question: should you pull for Rossi? Well, if you play physical teams or enjoy her design, the answer is very simple: she's a great option and you should. Rossi is a unique asset to teams that benefit from crush, breach, and vulnerability, and otherwise, even as a main DPS or sub DPS threat, she's quite valuable. Of course, however, you could also pair her in other ways alongside characters like Wolfguard, Gilberta, or even Perlica. It really just depends on how you choose to play her. As a result, however, I do think Rossi is one of the most interesting and potentially powerful characters that we've seen so far. That's it for today's video though, guys. Thanks again for watching, and if you were on the fence about Rossi or confused about how to play her, hopefully you again enjoyed or learned something from today's video. I'll see you all next time though. Stay safe, stay healthy, good night.